Well, as the polls have got closer and closer, Britain's referendum on membership of the European Union has gone from a bit of a local difficulty in the Northern Hemisphere to a full-scale global concern. With the vote in less than 2 weeks, the majority of polls suggest the Remain camp might just about have it. But 2 polls in recent days have a Brexit out in front. The sovereignty of British political institutions and domestic policies like immigration have been a key part of the campaign. But the other big issue is the effect on the UK economy of trying to disengage with Europe after 43 years of working together.
Our car makers, our aeroplane makers, our financial services businesses, our insurers, they want us to stay in the biggest single market in the world because they see immense opportunity. We should be taking that market and driving the trade deals with China, whose economy we're bigger than as part of the single market, driving that deal with America, who we're bigger than in the single market. And there's huge upside and opportunity, particularly for young people starting out on their lives. But there are risks, and I say we shouldn't risk it.
Now, big business is largely in the Remain camp, with others preferring to stay neutral. There are some dissenting voices, though. Billionaire entrepreneur Sir James Dyson, he of the bagless vacuum cleaner fame, told the UK's Daily Telegraph that leaving the EU will create more wealth and dismissing as cobblers the idea Britain will have no one to trade with if it goes. Well, Simon Walker is Director General of the Institute of Directors, and he joins me now from London. Simon Walker, welcome there. Can I ask you first about this fear campaign? Because the UK Treasury Committee said this is an arms race of ever more lurid claims and counter-claims made by both Leave and Remain sides, confusing the public and impoverishing the political debate. Do you agree?
Well, I think there's some truth in that. I mean, there's certainly been exaggerations from the Remain side. But bluntly, from the Leave side, I think there's been some real dishonesty. I mean, especially on the immigration front. The suggestion that 88 million Turks want to move to this country and that they'll be able to do so if Britain stays in the European Union is just really blatantly dishonest. So there has been questionable behaviour on both sides, but I think it's fairly clear where the bulk of the exaggeration is.
You say that even though I see David Cameron has lost one of the biggest donors to the Tory party overnight, Eddie Trill, through overreach, really.
Yeah, no, look, there are some business people who do support the Leave side. But actually, the economic debate has been pretty convincingly won by the Remain side. The immigration debate is still very much there. I think, though, there has been exaggeration about the economic consequences. But what we do know is that for perhaps 10 years, there will be a significant impact on the British economy. There will actually be fewer jobs, higher prices, and less growth for that sort of period. I mean, I don't think it's going to be Armageddon, and it's possible that after 10 years, things may recover, but actually that's quite a long time.
So, Simon, it does sound like Armageddon to me. If it's 10 years we're talking about, and the pound plunging, and trade with our partners, or sorry, your partners, really compromised. I mean, to what extent is there evidence that this will actually be the case for 10 years? I mean, even Argentina came back within 10 years from default.
Well, if you look at the pound, for example, I mean, several banks are saying it'll fall by 25 to 30% if Britain leaves the EU. It's already fallen quite a lot in anticipation of the fact that it might. In many ways, Nigel Farage, who's the leader of UKIP, has been commendably honest when he has said that it's really important to control immigration in this country, and if costing a few points of economic growth is the price of that, then that's a price worth paying. And it's clear that quite a lot of people out there agree with him, but that's not likely to be a business view, whatever your size of business. And the business arguments seem to me very much one way.
Won't a falling pound help exports?
Yes, a falling pound will help exports. There's no doubt about that. But manufacturing exports, which were once such a big part of the British economy, are now really quite a small part, and I'm not sure to what extent they'll help services and the creative industries, which I don't think is so dependent on where the pound sits. I think the costs of a falling pound to people who live in Britain, they'll be very noticeable. Now, of course, there are beneficiaries when any currency falls, but that's not an automatic justification for a falling currency.
The most recent British Chamber of Commerce survey does show most businesses in the Remain case, but an increase in those business people wanting to move to the Leave case from 30 to 37% over the last few months. How do you account for that?
Well, that's the British Chamber of Commerce's survey. In fact, when the Institute of Directors did its survey, it actually had moved the other way. I don't think we can be 100% sure, but I think we can see from every survey that's been done that business is pretty overwhelmingly in favour of Remain. There have been 20 surveys done of different bits of the business community, and all 20 have shown a majority, and often a huge majority, of business support
Yes.
for remaining in the EU.
And global organisations like the IMF and indeed international leaders are very much part of the Remain camp. To what extent is the worry less about how Britain will fare and more that if Britain leaves, that will be a crack in the mantle of Europe?
I think there is a perception of that, and there is concern amongst that. I mean, you say that international opinion is very much in favour of Remain, and that's true. I mean, the only politicians who seem to be in favour of leaving are Donald Trump, President Putin, and Marine Le Pen. I mean, all three of them have said it's a good thing for Britain to leave, whereas Barack Obama and every European leader is pretty clear that Britain ought to remain.
So briefly, what do you think the result will be in 2 weeks' time?
It's really very, very tight. But I have to say, over the last week, I've been thinking more and more that it may well be to leave.
Well, it'll be very interesting if that is the result. Simon Walker, we'll hope to get you back if that's the case. Thank you, sir.